Herzlich willkommen zu dieser Pressekonferenz.
Welcome to this press briefing at the Foreign Office. The German Foreign Minister will start, then his British colleague will follow, and we will have time to take your questions afterwards. Minister, you have the floor. Distinguished colleague, dear Yvette, in the only 2 months since you've taken office as Foreign Secretary, we've met in New York, Belfast, Paris, Bahrain, and only last week we met at the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting in Toronto. I'm delighted to be able to welcome you to Berlin today. It's great that we had the opportunity to take some time today to talk about the strategic dialogue between our countries. And next week we will meet again at the NATO, the OSCE, and maybe during the state visit of the federal president to the UK. So many different places, many different formats, and that illustrates how many shared interests we have and the close partnership we share, and that we globally act together. I feel that this partnership is truly enriching, and it is also an incentive to, after difficult post-Brexit years, to tap our common potential and use it as a win-win situation. With the signing of the historical Kensington Treaty in July, we have created a new topical foundation this year. The Kensington Treaty is a true friendship treaty reflecting the entire spectrum of our cooperation, and a treaty that demonstrates our high ambitions in developing our partnership even further. We have agreed on almost 20 bilateral lighthouse projects, and they are being implemented at full speed in many different areas. In addition to the foreign policy, economic policy topics, we would also like to focus on direct exchange, because the friendship between our countries is filled with life by our people, by visiting the other country, respectively, and we are seeing first successes. British frequent travelers can now use e-gates at German borders, facilitating entry controls and speeding up these processes. We want to expand this option as soon as possible to all British nationals. And as this had not been possible post-Brexit, we are now creating the condition for school classes to travel visa-free on school trips or exchange programs to the UK through group lists. These are visible results illustrating that we are filling the friendship treaty with life, that mobility, exchange, and openness are our joint ambition. Another focus of our discussions today was security and defense policy. The UK is a cornerstone of the European security architecture. As a NATO member, as a permanent member of the UN Security Council, and as a nuclear power. For us, as Germany, it's clear that we want to further step up our defense and security cooperation. The Kensington Treaty and the Trinity House Agreement are offering the right framework for that in the field of defense, and we see huge potential in many areas, ranging from joint industry projects to close tactical and strategic coordination. And I hope that we will be able to find a common way forward here. A crucial topic of our close coordination remains the support to Ukraine. Germany and the UK are the most important European supporters to Ukraine, politically, economically, and also in military terms. The winter is approaching, and Putin lets rockets and drones hail down on residential areas and deliberately also on power stations. And that means it is especially important to me that we stand shoulder to shoulder with the brave Ukrainians. We must not allow Putin to successfully implement his playbook and bring cold darkness and fear over the entire country. This is why we continue to increase pressure on Russia by being determined in supporting Ukraine, adding new sanctions, and also by showing some stamina. And I'd like to highlight this again. Stopping the killing and the suffering is only made impossible by the Russian president. If he wanted, the war could be over tomorrow. So we will continue to support Ukraine in its self-defense. We will not stop our efforts. We will continue to be active until Russia shows the willingness to make peace. This is our most important security policy topic at the moment, and this is also our message emanating from the strategic dialogue in Berlin. Our close political coordination is also reflected in our joint commitment under the E3 format with France. When it comes to dealing with the Iranian nuclear program, China or Russia, or also the situation in the Middle East, Germany, the UK, and France are closely coordinating. For us, this format is of strategic importance because we know that our unity is a decisive factor in international diplomacy. Our discussion, of course, also concerned the Western Balkans. I just visited the region. We, the EU or others, agree that only a strong, united Europe can guarantee freedom, security and prosperity in the long term, because any vacuum that we allow to exist on the continent will be filled by other powers that do not share the interests of the Europeans, and we need to be aware of that and need to prevent such attempts. Yvette, I would like to thank you for hosting the so-called Berlin process for the Western Balkans this year. And Belfast was an excellent choice for the foreign ministers' meeting, especially from an angle of reconciliation. It was a perfect example of how, in the spirit of the Kensington Treaty, we assume this responsibility together. This year marks a true new dawn in our relations. In the spirit of our friendship treaty, we want to expand this partnership for the benefit of our citizens and in the interest of our joint responsibility for freedom, security, and stability. So thank you very much once again for coming to Berlin today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Johan. Thank you for your hospitality today. And it's a great pleasure to be here in Berlin. It is, as Johan has said, we have had very many discussions in different parts of the world. So it's a pleasure to be able to now continue those here in Germany, because it is partnerships like this hugely important and strong partnership between the UK and Germany, are what make the UK stronger at home. Be it partnerships on economic growth and on trade, the partnerships on security, particularly around the threats from Russia and the impact on Ukraine, and partnerships to tackle challenges like illegal migration. The joint working we are able to do between our countries makes each of our countries stronger and helps tackle the problems that we face at home. We are taking forward together the UK-Germany Kensington Treaty that we signed in July and that is delivering for the British and German people alike. Germany is already the UK's second largest trading partner, worth £146 billion. That is putting money in the pockets of hardworking Brits. And tomorrow, German defence technology company Stark will open a new facility in Swindon, its first expansion outside Germany, creating more than 100 highly skilled jobs and a brand new 400,000 square foot warehouse to build unmanned systems to help defend Ukraine. They're supporting our economic relationship, but supporting our security relationship too. I also want to thank Johan for the joint work that we are doing to tackle illegal migration and also particularly the small boat crossings that undermine UK border security and put lives at risk. We know that right across Europe and beyond, criminal gangs, criminal smuggler and trafficking gangs operate across borders to make their vile profits. And so we as governments and law enforcement need to cooperate across borders in order to bring them down. As a result of the Kensington Treaty and as a result of joint action plan that we have previously signed, the German government has agreed the change in the law, and we expect expect now this change in the German law to pass through Parliament before Christmas and to be in force in January. And that means our police will jointly be able to pursue the criminal gangs who have been storing small boats in warehouses across Germany, who have been exploiting our borders right across Europe and into the UK in order to make a vile profit from trading in human lives. It is a result of our cooperation that we are able to go after the criminal gangs that undermine our border security at home. And also on this strengthening from our border security to strengthening our national security. We will continue to be at the heart of the cooperation on tackling the threat from Russia to Europe, and where nothing is more important than standing with Ukraine against Russia's brutal war. As key coalition of the willing partners, we are ratcheting up the economic pressure on Russia at every opportunity, directly targeting the revenue streams that fuel the Kremlin's war machine and cutting off critical mineral supplies. And alongside our friends and partners and close collaboration between the UK and Germany, we will continue that collaboration to strengthen European security. We know that Ukraine's security is our security. Our UK Defence Secretary has today confirmed that a Russian spy ship, the Yantar, is on the edge of UK waters north of Scotland. And this is a vessel used for gathering intelligence and mapping undersea cables. So we have deployed a Royal Navy frigate and RAF planes to monitor and track the vessel's every move, during which the Yantar directed light lasers at our pilots. That Russian action is deeply dangerous, and it's the second time this year that this ship has deployed to UK waters. We have been clear to Putin, we see this activity, we know what he is doing, and consistent with our shared objectives, with the joint work between the UK and Germany, but also the response that our Defence Secretary set out today, we are going further with new pressure on Russia, and the UK is announcing new sanctions against Russia's cyber criminals, targeting those who seek to undermine our security through ransomware and phishing attacks. And we have also, in recent days, seen the unprecedented attack on a key railway line in Poland, used to deliver vital support to Ukraine. It is clearly an unacceptable act of sabotage, and I have already offered the UK's full support to Poland on their investigation, but we should be clear, what we've seen is extremely irresponsible and reckless. The recent spate of hybrid incidents across the Euro-Atlantic since is deeply troubling, and that's why we will continue to work in lockstep on this, and why our cooperation between the UK and Germany is so important at the heart of this. The final issue I just wanted to highlight, because again, Johan and I have discussed this on a number of occasions, is the scale of the humanitarian crisis in Sudan, which is horrendous. And we have discussed the coordinated pressure that we will put on to support the work of the Quad in order to keep the pressure on for a humanitarian truce, but also to prevent further atrocities. And we have both supported the Human Rights Council resolution, which is authorising an investigation into the atrocities that have been taking place in El Fasher. From Belfast to Berlin, from the Niagara Falls to the discussions that we have had in New York, from many parts of the world, Johan and I have continued our foreign policy discussions and our foreign policy partnerships. This is a direct bilateral partnership where we are strengthening our own countries, but it is also the role that our two countries can play jointly, because we know that the security partnerships we build between each other and across the world are also what strengthen our security back at home. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from James Rothwell, Telegraph.
Foreign Secretary, there is renewed discussion in Europe about reforming the ECHR. Can you confirm whether you discussed that with Foreign Minister Wadephul, and if so, what changes would you like to see to the ECHR? And secondly, if I may, what is your message to Labour colleagues who are plotting to oust Sir Keir Starmer? Ich habe auch eine Frage für Sie.
And I have a question to you, Mr. Wadephul. Germany says it pays money to Afghans in Pakistan, so they will withdraw their asylum applications. Would you recommend the UK to do the same thing? Thank you.
Thank you. So first of all, on the ECHR, as you'll know, I had previously launched a review as Home Secretary into the way in which both Article 3 and Article 8 were being interpreted of the ECHR, and it's why we have been part of discussions right across Europe, and why there will be a meeting in December of Justice Ministers, and we expect further meetings of Foreign Ministers later this year. Look, it's really important we have a framework of international law, but it's also important that the laws are interpreted in a way that makes sense for the modern challenges that we face as well. And so that's what underpins those discussions. And yes, it is something that we have discussed here today. And in terms of the domestic issues that you said, what I would say is that the discussions that Johan and I have been having today are about the implementation of the Kensington Treaty that was drawn up by Keir Starmer, working with the German government, that are all about how we strengthen our economy and how we strengthen our security. Those are the things that this government is focusing on and will continue to focus on.
Die Personengruppe.
The group of people that you mentioned in Pakistan, this group that is currently in Pakistan, coming from Afghanistan, is a very diverse group of people, and they have different legal status. Some have a firm commitment that they come to Germany and they can come. For others, the legal status is unclear at the least, to say the least, or you have to assume that they do not have a legal basis to come to Germany. So we treat them differently. But I think this is a situation that is not comparable to the questions that the UK is dealing with. Ms. Nestlinger, Politico.
Schön. Frage an Sie beide.
Thank you. A question to you both. Did the US brief you on the new plan on peace for Ukraine, and how do you assess this plan if you have been briefed on it? No, we have not been briefed about it yet, but there are ongoing efforts of all international partners to make sure that President Putin comes to the negotiating table. So I understand that there were meetings in Istanbul, and anything that goes in this direction is, of course, something we support. We focus on supporting Ukraine at this point, and indirectly, of course, or also directly, making it very clear to Putin that there is no alternative to a negotiating process. He will have to reckon with the fact that politically, economically, and militarily, we will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine in the long run, too.
Been a situation really over many months in which President Trump has proposed a peace process and President Zelensky has shown his readiness for talks and for a ceasefire, but President Putin instead has simply chosen to escalate war, has simply chosen to increase the strikes and the threat, including targeting civilians and impact on children as well. And so that is why, as Johanna said, as part of the whole strategy that everyone is working together on to seek to get peace includes strengthening the economic pressure, both through the sanctions that we have been escalating, the UK announcing further sanctions, the EU continuing to develop sanctions, and also the US introducing new sanctions on Russian oil and gas as well, alongside the discussions that we have been having to support the use of Russian sovereign assets assets as well, and the mobilisation of the Russian sovereign assets as part of the work that the EU has been doing, so that we can continue to show that support for Ukraine, but also pressure Russia and pressure Putin to come back to the table for peace talks.
There is a question from Siobhan Robbins from Sky News.
Hi, Siobhan Robbins from Sky News. First of all, Foreign Secretary, what's your message to Russia about the spy ship that's on the edge of UK waters? And also whether it's alleged attacks on train lines, drones in foreign airspace, cyber attacks. Increasingly, Russia is being accused of bolder and bolder action. Sanctions don't appear to be working. Is it time to get tougher? And apologies, Foreign Minister, for an English question. Just like the UK, we've seen for the best part of this year, Germany getting tougher on illegal migration and asylum seekers, yet the AfD continues to rise through the polls. Critics say it's time for you to stop playing with people's lives. What's your response?
So Russia has failed in its military objectives over the course of this war. And so as a result, what we have seen them try to do is to seek continually to escalate. We can see the approach that they're taking. We have no illusions about what they are doing. We see what Putin is doing, and we understand, and we will continue to be vigilant and determined in our response, just as we have been about incursions into NATO airspace, just as we are being now in terms of identifying the Russian spy ship in UK waters, and just as we have continued to be in response to sabotage threats that we have seen across many different European countries as well. It will not deter us from supporting Ukraine, quite the opposite, because we know Ukraine's security is our security. We will continue to stand with Ukraine because Ukraine has shown incredible strength and resilience in the face of Russian aggression. And I think Putin has repeatedly underestimated Ukraine and underestimated the commitment and determination of Ukraine's friends.
The new German government has been concentrating on bringing down the numbers of illegal migration towards Germany. And our Minister of Interior, Alexander Dobrin, is very successful on that sector. We are collaborating very closely, me as Foreign Minister, and we all in the government on that very issue. Because it's necessary to show the people that we are able to control who is coming to Germany and who not. So that is a deeper reason that we are controlling our borders now. We are doing this in accordance with international law.
Frau Nüsslinger, Sie hatten noch 2 letzte Fragen.
Dankeschön.
Thank you, Mr. Wadephul. I have another question. Germany changed its voting pattern at the UN regarding UNRWA. Could you elaborate on that? And
Sie haben die hybriden Angriffe.
you spoke about the hybrid attacks carried out by Russia. Do you see a change with European officials that there might be more activity in counterattacks in terms of cyber attacks as well, that you not only want to defend that yourself, but really react? Is there anything you can tell us with regard to the E3's reaction as well? Well, UNRWA, of course, brings important life-saving assistance to all in all 6 million people, and the governments of Jordan and Lebanon and Syria have repeatedly asked the federal government for support. But, and that's enshrined in our coalition treaty, we have made it clear that we want verifiable reform within UNRWA. And Ms. Colonna has drafted a report. That report has not fully been followed up yet, so we changed our approach a bit. So we have not yet approved a prolongation of the mandate because we want to, and we have made an abstention, and this is because we wanted to show that when it comes to UNRWA's activities in the Palestinian territories, we expect a change of behavior. There was in parts an unacceptable form of cooperation with some areas that, or people that have been hostile towards Israel. And this is why we came to this conclusion, and we hope that the message was understood and that the necessary reforms will finally be carried out.
So on the different kinds of hybrid threats, we will continue to work closely with all of our allies. The E3 partnership, the E3 arrangement and the partnership that we have in place is immensely important. And we had obviously the leaders of our countries who met last night and who continue to keep that strong partnership working, and that is particularly around the security issues, particularly around issues around Ukraine, and also responding to Russian threats. So we already have important information sharing and intelligence sharing arrangements in place directly for us, but also as part of NATO and as part of the wider alliances that we have. We are keen to go further on things like sanctions on cyber threats as well from Russia, and we will continue to work in partnership to make sure that we've got the real depth of the hybrid response that we need to make sure that we are always strengthening our security.
That concludes the press conference. Thank you very much for attending. Have a good day.